Welcome to Films on the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies, where we watch a forgotten superhero movie and decide, does this belong in the Phantom Zone to be forgotten, or out and about for everyone to rewatch and remember fondly? My name is Arnaldo, I'm your host, and I'm joined
by Berto, co-host.
Sorry, it's a little late on a Sunday. We're breaking all the rules today. Hopefully we don't fall asleep doing this. If I need to make us coffee halfway through.
You might need to.
That's fair. We might have to do that.
We don't want to end up like that Cowboys and Aliens episode.
Cowboys and Aliens, I hit the button and you were like, oh no, that was X-Men. Where I hit the button and you're like yawning. I'm like, what the hell? We just started. Wake up. And it was not late. It was like 8:30 or something, or 9 o'clock.
I had a long day.
Yeah, you famously stay up till like 4 in the morning though. Anyway, Berto, what movie are we watching today?
Hellboy from 2004.
That's right, because it's spooky season.
And we're running out of spooky movies in our list.
Actually, we have plenty of spooky movies.
Do we really?
Yeah. We have the Crow movies. We have Spawn. We have Hellboys.
True.
And then we also have Blade. But Blade we're going to do when Blade comes out.
When it ties into Blade. If we're not already done with this by then. Who knows how long that's going to take to come out.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So it's spooky season. We've chosen Hellboy. We're going to be doing Hellboy 1 and 2 going into October. Not sure. Haven't decided. There might not be time either to do the Hellboy reboot. But as of this moment, it really looks like that is dead in the water. Like they're not making a sequel to it.
No, David Harbour is even like, I don't think they're doing it.
Yeah. So maybe we'll wait a little bit longer, see if they think about it. But it's not looking good for Hellboy 2019. But for this, we're doing Hellboy from 2004, starring
Ron Pearlman.
Thank you, Ron Pearlman. Directed by Guillermo del Toro. Before we get started, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the background of the character a little bit. We're going to review the plot of the movie. We're going to analyze it to the best of our ability. Then we're going to do Keep or Cancel, my favorite segment, where we talk about the stars behind the movie, and we decide if we're going to keep them or cancel them. And then lastly, we're going to decide if the movie goes into the Phantom Zone or not.
All right.
This movie is available on Amazon Prime Video, but by the time this goes out, it won't be on Prime anymore. So I don't know if it's just not going to be available anymore. I guess Google it. Or you can do what I do. I go on a site called justwatch.com, plug in anything and tells you who's streaming it.
So like where exactly you can watch it. This is not an ad, by the way.
No, it's just good website.
It's the website
that's how I find all the movies. I'm like, because I have most streaming services, so I'm like, where can I find this thing? But I will link that below, I guess, since I'm plugging it. But it's set on Prime Video. They said this will be off on September 30th. So if you're listening to this, it's not on Prime Video.
Left.
Yeah, I don't know where it's available. Maybe I'll find it and I'll post on Instagram.
And sometimes contracts get extended at the last minute, but we'll see.
It may very well go to a different streaming service,
yeah.
On October 1st, or it might just not be anywhere.
Who produced this movie?
Sony.
Oh.
So it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
it could, after Amazon, it could go anywhere.
It'll probably go to like Stars.
Yeah, seriously. So who knows? Cool. All right, so let's just get into the background of the character. So Hellboy, written in 1993 by Mike Mignola, in the book Hellboy, Seed of Destruction, a Dark Horse comic. Do you have any experience with Hellboy at all?
I don't know a lot about the character, besides like what we've seen in the movies, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know it pulls from a lot of different like paranormal aspects to kind of create like whatever world it takes place in.
Apparently the movie is fairly comic accurate to at least this first book.
Okay.
He's a half-demon summoned by a fictionalized version of Rasputin. Raised Catholic and well-meaning, ironic sense of humor, a paranormal detective fighting against Nazis, witches, Lovecraftian horror, and pulp-like stories.
There seems to be a trend in comic books with like things that look like demons and being Catholic.
It's like delicious irony, right?
Yeah.
That, he's raised Catholic, but he obviously looks like a demon. What did we... X-Men.
X-Men,
yeah,
too.
Yeah, we just watched X-Men, and that's kind of the whole point of Nightcrawler's character.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in that, we talked about like the throwback to like Matt Murdock and
Right.
He's like the
Same.
devil of Hell's Kitchen, but he's also
He's
very
also
Catholic.
Yeah. It almost feel like the low hanging fruit that.
It's easy to do, and it's also interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't hit me until just now that have you seen Invincible?
Yeah.
Damien Darkblood, clearly a reference to
in appearance Hellboy. And like just the way he
and basically
acts.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Invincible, there is a character, Damien Darkblood, who is a paranormal detective, and he's a big red demon.
He's literally a demon.
He's pretty much Hellboy. And I mean Invincible is supposed to be kind of like this, loosely reference a lot of like
other
comics
books,
and stuff. Yeah. So when I watched Invincible, I think there was something like strangely familiar about Darkblood, and I never, because I'm stupid, I guess, I never like made this connection that he's clearly Hellboy.
Oh yeah.
Look, I'm not able to read every comic, or even that many, because there's a lot of comics out there, and so it's hard to like read a comic based on something we're about to watch when we watch something different every week. Plus, like all these other things we do. That being said, like I'm still reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I really like that book.
Are you just kind of slowly going through it?
Yeah. I'm almost done with the first volume, and I ordered the second one.
Oh, nice.
So when I'm finished, if you want, I'll let you borrow it.
Okay.
It's really good. The IDW run. So let's just get into initial expectations. Have you seen this movie before?
I saw it when I was a kid. I didn't see it like in theaters. I think it was just my dad had the DVD, and I like popped it in one day and watched it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I had any expectations because I didn't know anything about this. But when I was a kid, I just remember thinking like, oh wow, this is like kind of cool.
Yeah. I have no memory of this movie, and I've seen it before. And I want to say I saw it not that long ago. Like I think I saw it a few years after the sequel came out. So maybe like 2010. So like, I mean 10 years ago, but still.
That's still over a decade.
Sure, but I don't remember any of this. So this was all kind of a surprise. I remember liking it, but like I don't remember anything. I think I'm remembering a lot more of the sequel, The Golden Army.
Okay.
That one is incredibly well received. Like it was nominated for a bunch of awards and stuff in I think 2008. It was kind of overshadowed by The Dark Knight.
And Iron Man.
And sure. Yeah. So it was kind of fun going back, but again, I mean, I have like certain images stuck in my head that are not in this movie, and I'm over here like confused where I got them from. Maybe the trailer for the new one. I don't know.
Are you thinking about like the villains that kind of look like puppets, sort of?
Those look kind of familiar too.
That's Hellboy 2.
Oh, no idea.
Or maybe you're thinking of Pan's Labyrinth.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. All right, cool. Let's just get into the plot. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I don't know what this is called. It's like a quote screen where they just put up a quote.
Oh,
you know, they do this in all these movies, but I thought it was an interesting quote. In the coldest regions of space, the monstrous entities Ogdru Jahad, the 7 gods of chaos, slumber in their crystal palace, waiting to reclaim the earth and burn the heavens. And that's from the Desvermis Mysteries, page 87. So,
is this a real book or a fictional book in this universe?
It is a little bit of both. It's a little bit of A, a little bit of B. It's a real thing that was written into a Lovecraft book.
Okay.
So it was because, Lovecraft.
He did a lot of like cosmic horror type stuff.
Yeah, but he also incorporated a lot of like other texts, not just his stuff.
He was also very racist.
Sure. But that's part of like, I guess like why it was so influential is because he kind of picks from, real life mythologies, other texts.
His stuff is good,
weird.
By the way, like a bit of that sounds like the whole like, Cthulhu sleeping in his prison underwater waiting.
Right. So the mysteries are a fictional text within a book in the short story The Secret of the Tomb by Robert Bloch.
Okay.
Which was then incorporated by H.P. Lovecraft into the lore of the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay.
But Lovecraft coined the Latin title. So it was called The Mysteries of the Worm. And then the Latin title is De Vermis.
Okay.
It's
complicated origins.
Yeah, but it's basically from Lovecraft's point of view.
Okay.
So it's similar to the Necronomicon, which is a book within a book. Right? Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because a lot of this is pulling from like Lovecraftian horror tropes. Right?
Yeah. And like right off the bat, we already kind of know that with this, although an average viewer probably has no idea what any of this means. So As a kid, I certainly
Here's
didn't.
the other thing is Guillermo del Toro, like, he's not really writing for the average viewer, right?
That's true, too.
He's one of those where he's making kind of something that's approachable for kind of the layman, but also enjoyable for someone who knows what they're getting into, right?
Because he wrote and directed this, right?
He pretty much writes and directs. He pretty much writes everything that he directs.
Okay.
But now that you ask me, now I have to verify. I don't like saying the wrong thing.
Well, it's good to have the facts straight.
Yeah, screenplay by Guillermo del Toro.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. In 1944, combining science and black magic, desperate Nazis entrust Grigory Rasputin to open a portal to free the Ogdru Jihad and win the war. Paranormal scientist Professor Broom, he has a name, but Professor Broom is like his nickname.
No, they just call him like Broom.
They call him Broom, yeah. Assist the Allies in stopping the Nazis. They destroy the portal, and Rasputin gets sucked in. In exchange, they find a baby demon with a hand of stone and name him Hellboy. Professor Broom takes him in.
I really like this intro.
I love alternate history shit.
I do
it's
too.
It's so fun.
For me especially, it's things involving like, you know, like some of the secret Nazi experiments. Yeah. What if they were like actually onto something when it came to like paranormal stuff?
Sure.
Like stuff like that's super interesting.
Is that kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Like Aliens movies.
Yeah, or
like shit like that.
Captain America with like Hydra.
Oh, yeah.
Or like the Call of Duty, the Nazi zombies.
Yeah.
Like, just stuff like that.
All that stuff's super fun.
Super fun and interesting to just watch.
It's also like, I mean, it's not realistic, but it's slightly plausible in that Hitler was obsessed with the occult.
Right.
Like
they actually were looking for stuff like this.
Yeah, that's a known fact.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't find anything that we know of, but that's kind of the interesting part is like, what if we don't know this? It's like the whole, are aliens real? Is Area 51, like, what are they hiding? All these things are so interesting from an outsider's point of view, even though it's probably nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, some people might be like, no, aliens are real, but I'm just saying, like, it's probably nothing, but it's fun to like speculate.
Well, I think aliens are real. I don't think they're at Area 51, but I think they're real.
Sure. So like all this like, oh, the Nazis are trying to like summon demons. I'm all here for it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. There's some really interesting, fun little symbolism going on too when the professor, who's like devoutly Catholic and is like carrying a rosary and he's praying, is being led by like the army guys.
Like the gruff army guys.
Yeah. And the professor's like offering like a rosary to like the general or whatever. He's like, you're going to need one of these. And the general's like, you're going to need one of these. And he gives him a gun.
And he's like, I don't like violence.
Yeah. But it's kind of a fun kind of look into like each of their perspectives of what they're about to go into.
Yeah.
Where one is fighting with kind of spirituality while the other one's like, we're going to shoot them.
Point and shoot.
Yeah, point and shoot. Exactly. So the villains, there's three of them, basically. It was kind of confusing. There's Rasputin, who's a real person. This is a fictionalized version of
and
Grigory Rasputin.
And there's a reason why he's always so... Did we talk about him during LXG?
Was he in that?
I don't remember. I think he was the bad guy.
Was he the bad guy?
I thought Moriarty was the bad guy.
Moriarty was the bad guy.
I don't remember if he was in it or not.
Wasn't he pretending to be someone else, though? Moriarty?
Was he pretending to be Rasputin?
I don't fucking remember. That was such a long time ago. So it's Rasputin, his girlfriend Ilsa, who I think this might be based on a real person too, and Carl.
Carl.
It's Carl with a K because he's a Nazi, but he has a longer name. I just don't remember it. So like this whole time when I'm typing this up, I'm just calling him Killer Carl because that's his one job is to kill people.
Yeah, I mean that's his thing.
Kind of stuck with me. So there's Killer Carl, who's like wearing a mask and he's got like swords.
He's like blades like attached to his suit.
Ilsa and like the ringleader is Rasputin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Rasputin like gives her a book and is like, you're going to be immortal with this book. Like you're cursed or blessed with immortality or whatever.
Yeah.
The way they say it was just so casual. I thought it was kind of funny. But Killer Carl has like a gun at first and he runs out of bullets. So then he pulls out his swords.
Yeah.
And then instead of like firing at him, they
all
engage
run
him
at him. Yeah.
Like hand to hand. Why would you do that? You have the guns.
I noticed that when I was watching. I'm like, why?
That's a bit movie logic because later it's kind of shown that he's like bulletproof. But at the time, it didn't show us that in that scene.
It also shows him like reflecting bullets later with the blades.
With the blades, yeah. I also was very confused by Hellboy. I thought this scene was a little confusing because Rasputin, first of all, it's cold and it's raining. And I don't know why he does this, but he doesn't have a shirt on. He just has like a coat. And he's like shirtless. And I'm like...
It looks menacing.
Well, I think it's supposed to visually look like Hellboy. who doesn't wear a shirt, but he does wear a shirt sometimes.
Sometimes.
But sometimes he doesn't. But he wears a coat.
He wears a coat.
He wears a coat, though. And then he wears a controller to control the portal
and
on
it
his
looks
right
like
arm.
Hellboy's
and it looks
stone hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm very confused because I thought, is Hellboy some sort of reincarnation of him? Because he looks like him. He's got the arm.
Right.
Or is that a coincidence? Not a coincidence, but it's supposed to be like, there's obviously supposed to be a visual connection, but is that just for like movie language thing?
Yeah, and it's never like outright stated. It's just stated that Rasputin like summoned him for a reason.
Yeah. So in movie, is it a coincidence that he had this arm controller thing to control the portal, and it looks like Hellboy's hand?
Do all Hellboys have that hand?
Are there more Hellboys?
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I thought he was like created as a product of this whole thing. Because Rasputin is later shown to like have reincarnations. Like he's brought back to life a couple times.
Yeah.
So for a while I thought Hellboy was him until he came back. So then I got really confused. I thought that part wasn't very clear.
It was a little weird, yeah.
Yeah. Opening credits have the newspaper clippings showing over time and like tabloids showing the mysterious Hellboy, the monster hunter and sightings, along with like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Present day Romania, Rasputin's lover, Ilsa, and Killer Carl, again, I'm just going to call him Killer Carl, are still alive, cursed with eternal life. They lure in a guy to a sacred temple, kill him, and resurrect Rasputin. The FBI director is questioned on a talk show about Hellboy sightings and denies his existence and the existence of a Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Cut to the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense.
That was humorous.
Great gag. Great bit. I love that. You know, the thing is, though, if an FBI official was on TV, which doesn't happen, first of all.
He's the director, too.
Yeah, he's like a bigwig. He goes on TV and looks straight at the camera and he goes, "There's no such thing." If he did that, not a soul would believe that. Like, we tried storming Area 51 in cosplay, for fuck's sake. Like, in no world, you know, would the FBI just be like, aliens aren't real? And people would be like, okay, if you say so.
Were you also distracted by the fact that the FBI director was...
Jeffrey Tambor?
Yeah.
A little bit.
George Michael?
George Sr.
George Sr.
Yeah,
yes.
George Michael's the kid.
George Michael's the kid. George Sr. Yep.
George Bluth.
Yeah, because it's George, then Michael, then George Michael.
Yeah.
What a weird fucking family.
Great show. Jeffrey Tambor, yeah. Okay, so there we meet our POV character, new recruit, John Myers, who is an FBI agent sent to the department. He meets Abe Sapien and Professor Broom, who tells him there are things that go bump in the night, Agent Myers. Make no mistake about it. And we're the ones that bump back. That was a good line.
I feel like it's also like the iconic line of this movie. I think it's in the trailer.
That's cool. He explains that the need for it's when he said that line that I was like, yeah, spooky season. We're doing this right. He explains that the need for their department, fighting dark forces and Lovecraftian monsters. He also discusses Hitler's obsession with the occult and implies that the war secretly lasted 3 more years. Myers is introduced to Hellboy, now fully grown but barely matured.
So I like this whole introduction to this bureau and stuff, like as he's walking through and seeing all the stuff. I also really love when fiction does like any sort of like government bureau that is involved with like paranormal stuff. It's just fun mixing like the world of like bureaucracy with like supernatural elements. There's just something fun about that.
Well, it's also interesting that like if we were invaded by aliens or if monsters were real, then the government would still be like fucking it up and the bureaucracy would be just as boring and inefficient.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Still paperwork, there's still red tape.
Still pushing papers and
Yeah.
Very similar to Men in Black, I think.
Yeah.
When it's just kind of like this building that's supposed to look boring, and I think on the outside it said like it's like a waste management kind of thing. The doorman or whatever is just like so bored with his job, and he's like, yeah, just watch your elbows. Hits a button and he goes through like a secret tunnel.
Like it's all this incredible stuff, but it's like it's boring to them.
Right, yeah. So Abe Sapien, I think he doesn't get enough play in this movie. I think he's one of the most interesting characters.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot more to do in the next one, though.
And the only like real background we got in him was like they found him in a tank on the day Abe Lincoln was assassinated.
Yeah, so they named him Abe.
Yeah.
But he's a fish boy, right? He's a fish guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very old. He's very intelligent.
He also has like all kinds of powers. So like he's like telepathic. He can see the past. He can see the future sometimes.
Yeah, by like touching things.
Yeah. real interesting. I'm like, we should have more of him. Like, he was
more interesting than Hellboy.
Yeah, at least more interesting than, like, Myers, I thought.
Myers is us, though.
Yeah, right, exactly. I also like that Hellboy is, although he's like 60 at this point, he's like barely matured past like adolescence.
Yeah. He's like an angsty teen.
Yeah, they imply he's probably like 21. Yeah. You know, they say, oh, it's like reverse dog years.
It said like he's like barely in his 20s or barely past his 20s or something like that. Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
I love that he just loves cats.
There's like 8 cats.
Like he keeps them around. They're like his weakness.
The team is sent on a mission to a museum. Hellboy's transport is disguised as a garbage truck, to which he comments, "How am I supposed to get a girl in a garbage truck?" I love that line because it's like, that's what you're worried about.
He's so...
Not that you're a 6'5" demon.
Yeah, he's so relatable in a way.
Kind of, right. Yeah, exactly. Inside, Hellboy responds to an intruding monster, Samael, the Desolate One, Hound of Resurrection, a demon-like dog, who fights Hellboy into the streets. Hellboy sees Rasputin, who calls him son and alludes to his true purpose, before Hellboy chases the monster into the subway. There, Hellboy gets hit by a train, and the conductor kicks Hellboy off it, to a roaring applause from the passengers. I thought that was hilarious. Because everyone just sees... a demon trying to climb into the train. and
the conductor just kicking him in the face.
Well, he's hitting him with like the fire extinguisher too. I'm on your side. He's like, yeah, whatever. And he just like kicks him off the train, and all the passengers are like, yay! When John gets clipped by a car and he's about to get like run over, and Hellboy, I can't tell if I love his quips or I hate them.
They're like cringy, but also I can see him saying that
because he's relatable, right? And he goes, "Red means stop," and then he punches the car and it goes flying over him.
And the driver's just like, "What the fuck?"
He could kill that guy.
Yeah, those cars are going fast as fuck.
Yeah, whenever there's this, and this is kind of like another thing I see in movies all the time, so when they're kind of crossing the street Frogger style, and cars are going 60 to 80 miles an hour.
And don't even attempt to slow down.
Don't stop. They just honk. Again, it just kind of looks like a game of Frogger, and it looks very dangerous. I'm like, if I was to be standing in the middle of the street, like, the cars would probably stop.
Or at least try to.
You know, at least if I'm in peril, too. You know, like, these guys seem to be. I also left out that he electrocutes Samael, and he says he's fireproof.
Oh, yeah.
That telegraphs, like, something later in the movie pretty good.
Yep.
Back at the museum, Abe studies an artifact and can see its past. He shows Professor Broom the events of the museum break-in. It's Carl, Ilsa, and Rasputin who kill the guards, find salt from the tears of 1,000 angels, and use magic to resurrect Samael. Some of this kind of falls into cringy corniness, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hand-waving of, like, it's magic. Like, that's the answer. Don't worry about it. Don't think too hard about it. You know what I mean?
What is the tears of 1,000 angels?
Yeah, how do you get that? And a lot of it just plays off of, like, yeah, this is kind of a horror comic-y universe.
Right.
So, like, normally I'd be like, oh, that's fun. Like, you know, they've got all these, like, relics that are real. Like, angelic relics or demonic relics. And, you know, it plays with, like, these mythologies, but really they're you know, they really happened or whatever. But the tears of 1,000 angels, no, the salt from the tears of 1,000 angels, that seems far-fetched, even in this.
When were 1,000 angels walking on the earth in any mythology?
That, and like, again, and Rasputin just kind of like waves his hand, and green magic just kind of like turns the salt into this demon Samael. I don't know. I feel like some of the mechanics of bringing some of these characters back to life could have been workshopped a little bit more. Maybe find this. I don't like
lay some rules for the magic.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just make green smoke and be like, all right, we do whatever we want. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, at a mental asylum, Hellboy visits Liz, a former partner and crush of his, who is pyrokinetic and has trouble controlling her powers. That night, she's visited by Rasputin. This causes her to have a pyro episode and explodes the whole hospital. Myers asks her to return to the BPRD.
She killed a lot of people.
Yeah, we kind of just breeze past that, too. I think it's vastly irresponsible that they know what her superpower is.
Mm-hmm.
And that she's done this before. That she's had episodes where she burns down homes and kills people, and yet they put her in like a minimum security mental asylum.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, she wants to go there, so we'll just let her go.
But shouldn't her room be like fireproof or something? Like this should put her in a vault,
or a vacuum. That'll kill her.
Yeah. But, at the very least, like, just something. Because, she meets Hellboy. Hellboy, like, sneaks out to go visit her. And she's like, I haven't had an episode since I've been here. This is great for me. Yada, yada.
And then that same fucking night.
Right, but what if you have an episode? Then what? Like, you're in a bedroom that's next door to another bedroom.
Yeah.
In a building that's made out of wood. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
And there's, like, doctors and, like, I think there was, like, kids there, too.
Probably. I thought, like, she was going to start a fire, and then we would see people, like, getting away, and the firefighters come and, like, save them or whatever. No, the whole thing just fucking explodes, and we're just fine with it. Like, I feel like she'd be arrested at the very least, They just breeze past that.
Wires like, hey, since you did all this, you want to hang out with us?
And that, too, like, that could have been used as a bargaining chip. To be like, hey, you're safe with us. If you stick around here, they're going to come for you now. You kills a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Just like something small like that would have made a bit of this have a more feeling to it, I guess.
Yeah, or at least kind of like inform her motivations a little bit more, because a scene prior, Hellboy asks her to come back too. And she says no. And so she has this episode. She's like, well, I guess, I can't stay here.
If I'm blowing up buildings, I'll come back.
Yeah, sure. But just a little bit more there, I think, would have been, I don't know, a little bit better. Abe discovers that Samael laid eggs inside Hellboy, and that it's likely it's laid more in the subway tunnels. The team sets out to find them. Abe goes swimming somewhere. It's not clear where there's this much water, but he goes swimming, and finds a nest before being attacked by a fully grown Samael. 2 agents are killed by 2 more Samaels, and Hellboy kills another in a populated subway station while saving a box of kittens. Killer Carl appears to kill Agent Clay, an agent with hair plugs who is friendly with Hellboy. Interestingly, Killer Carl then kills himself.
Yeah. He clicks his little whatever in his chest and
he like electrocutes himself. Like he just like right?
You don't
That's what
see
it
it
seemed like.
It looked like he was being electrocuted, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it just like stopped. Well, he doesn't even have a heart, so I'm not sure what the device does, but it did something to like make him.
Yeah, there's a lot of lack of clarity here. It's just kind of like, yeah, it made him dead. When we did Cowboys and Aliens, we talked about how like it's hard to do alien designs now that like everything else has done it. Like everything has been done before, so how do you do it?
Yeah.
This here is kind of interesting because Aliens is like a favorite of Guillermo del Toro. And it's clear that he puts certain like bits in his movies without being overly kind of derivative.
Yeah.
Right? Because this demon dog, Samael, like laid an egg
inside
his
people.
arm. And yeah, that's an alien thing. That's what the aliens do in the Alien movie, right?
It's also gross.
Oh yeah, it's super
It's really gross.
Super gross. I also find it interesting that like there are already some that are fully grown, even though this is like presumably hours or a day later.
Yeah.
But I really like that this takes place before the smartphone era, because nowadays, if you set a scene like this, like a fight scene in a populated area, then you have to account for the fact that everyone would pull their phones out and record it.
Because that's what would happen.
Yeah. And now that has to become part of the story. But here you can just be like, no, everyone just kind of like watched, because their phones have cameras, but they're not good, and they don't really have social media the way we do now. Like it's 2004, like Facebook still isn't really a thing. MySpace is a thing, but like
sort of.
I don't even remember if you could upload video in 2004 to like MySpace. So
if you did, it looked like really bad.
I don't remember if cell phones could record video at this time.
It might just be pictures.
I think it was just pictures mostly. Yeah, you would need a camcorder.
And it was like 1.1 megapixels.
Yeah, something ridiculous. So, it makes me happy that like this just happened to be set at this time period, because then it would kind of change the whole plot. It reminds me of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where like they have a scene out in public, and then now they have to talk about how like the footage went viral.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it affects the story in some way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and I get that it's like
that's
a necessity.
World we live in now.
It's a world we live in, and that's reality. But I also hate social media in movies. I don't remember who said this, but someone said that like cell phones are gonna like kill movies or something, because it's not as interesting when people text than when they have a phone call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the purposes of film, to like tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can still have two characters having a scene together just over the phone. You just cut back and forth or whatever. But like now with texting and social media, it's like we can communicate in so many ways that just aren't interesting on film. So it's kind of like, how do you do that? And
they'll do it with like text like popping up on the
text
screen.
bubbles on the screen, yeah. And some movies have done that pretty good. Like Sherlock did it, and it's really good. We've seen some other things that have done it that are pretty good, but like others that are not so much.
Okay.
And I don't always, again, like I don't want a big speech bubble on the screen either.
No, I'd rather just see two people talking.
Yeah. So
But people don't call each other anymore, so
that's kind of the problem.
also him saving the kittens because he couldn't not do it.
That's cool. At the same time, put the kittens down, man. Like he was still fighting the monster with the kittens in his hand. He should have just moved the kittens.
Little dangerous.
Yeah. I thought it was a little repetitive that they had another fight with the same creature in the subway station.
Right.
Even though this one's different, it is still kind of the same. And I want to talk later about kind of the action in this, but it's a little dated, I think, and the choreography is a little dated.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
It feels like this was made like in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like bad wire work. So like someone gets punched and they go flying in a straight trajectory at a very slow speed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That happens a lot in this. The FBI director scolds Hellboy for being reckless and leading to the deaths of 3 agents. He reveals that he doesn't approve of the BPRD and calls Hellboy a freak. Hellboy sort of threatens and scares the director, but then is excited to see Liz return. Liz goes to get coffee with Myers, which visually upsets Hellboy. He spies on their date and watches them flirt from a rooftop, where he throws a rock at Myers' head.
He launches that rock at his head.
It looks very painful.
I forgot about that happening until I saw it happen, and then like just a part of my childhood came back to me, and I just busted out laughing.
Did it like unlock a memory? Yeah. That's great.
Even today, that was hilarious to me.
I thought it was funny. At this point in the movie, I'm like, this is kind of a comedy, like in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, this is actually kind of funny.
And like when he scares the director and like breaks the wall right as Liz gets there, and he's like excited to see her, and everyone's just like rolling their eyes and walking away.
Well, because he's kind of like growling, like he's viciously angry, and then he turns around and he's like, "Oh, hey, Liz!" Like, and
everyone's like,
he's just very happy that she's there.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. I think that was good.
You see that Hellboy's actually pretty good at kids here too. He's just hanging out with like a 9-year-old on a rooftop.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Eating milk and cookies.
That was super innocent.
Or
that the
drinking
kid,
milk and eating cookies, whatever.
Yeah, the kid like brought milk too.
Yeah, and like cookies that his mom made.
Yeah, and he's giving him advice, which was fun. Professor Broom performs an autopsy on Killer Carl and sees masochistic surgical scars all over his body. He has no eyelids, lips, or blood, I guess, and uses steampunk mechanisms to stay alive. Probably magic too, but that wasn't clear. He wakes up and he and Rasputin appear. Rasputin shows Professor Broom a future vision of the apocalypse, led by Hellboy himself. He has Killer Carl kill him as We'll Meet Again plays on the phonograph.
This was a pretty good scene.
I like the little musical cues like that. Like, there are 2 characters in this scene who just can't help but be resurrected all the time.
Yeah.
And it's playing, you know, We'll Meet Again. Da, da, da. I thought that was pretty good. Not to mention, I really like John Hurt as an actor. I think he's incredible. He has a great voice. Carl was kind of creepy. Sorry,
he looked like a zombie.
Creepy Carl. He basically is, apparently.
Yeah,
like, he's
a Nazi zombie.
Because he's not one that was gifted immortality like Ilsa. Ilsa looks exactly the same as she did, you know, back then, along with Rasputin.
He's like just a 150-year-old corpse.
Yeah. There's a cliche funeral in the rain, and the team plan to go after all the Samael eggs and Rasputin in Moscow. Hellboy tells Liz that he's sorry he can't be more normal. I do like their interactions. Like, I like their scene together here where she's kind of like, it's implied that like he's in love with her and she doesn't really like feel the same way, sort of.
At least not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she does care about him.
because he thinks it's because he doesn't look normal, and he's like, I wish I didn't look like this, because he was raised human and he would probably rather look like a human.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of envies that out of Myers, the traditionally handsome white dude, right?
Yeah.
They make a white joke in this too somewhere. I forget where, but because because he's red skinned and he says he says something about being white. I don't remember though. Obviously, their pairing makes sense because he's flame proof.
Right.
He's like a demon and she can't hurt him, although she could probably hurt him emotionally, right?
She already is. But I also feel like this scene does actually show how much Hellboy really did care about him.
Yeah, the movie does a good job of, portraying him as an important character.
Right.
And I think that, at least in the movie's logic, justifies a big funeral. But again, the funeral's even kind of cliche, it's raining.
Yeah.
And it's nighttime. And they're
I feel like the scene is more for Hellboy's character though, because you also get the little montage right before the funeral where you see him rushing to the body.
No, yeah, for sure.
He's clearly heartbroken.
Yeah,
He respected this was his dad.
No, I completely agree with you. I just feel like it should have looked differently. Is all I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, this reminded me a little bit of Elektra's father's funeral in Daredevil. That's in the rain too.
Oh yeah. It's just so angsty.
Or the comedian's funeral in Watchmen.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a cliche.
Yeah.
Bit of trivia here I found out. So if you watch these movies, if you watch any movie basically on Amazon, the best feature that they have is if you pause it, they have a feature called the X-ray. Yeah. Where it shows you everybody in the scene, who they're played by, what their names are, which is super useful when you're doing something like this, where I'm like, what's this guy's name? Who's the actor or whatever? But they also include, if there's music in the scene, it links you to the music.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is so helpful also. And random bits of trivia. So, I kept on pausing it or hovering my mouse to,
just to see what pops up.
Yeah. A fun bit I found out in one of these scenes is there's the scene with Abe, who's upside down, solving the Rubik's Cube in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this was the actor, Doug Jones. It was his birthday when they filmed that.
Oh.
And Guillermo del Toro greeted him that day, and he said, "Happy birthday, Doug. Today we're going to hang you up by your balls."
That's uncomfortable.
I find it very unrealistic that he can't solve a Rubik's Cube.
For decades.
Yeah. Because his point is that he's not a problem solver. He's more of kind of
just an intellectual.
An intellectual, exactly. But it's not about being smart or being a problem solver. It's barely a puzzle. Someone figured it out forever ago, and it's a very well documented algorithm to get there.
I think it's meant more as a gag, but
I know I'm picking at it for no reason. They arrive in Moscow to a cemetery where Hellboy reanimates a corpse to lead them. He's just so annoyed to be brought back to life. It's such a weird comedic beat here, but I really liked it.
Yeah, he comes back with the corpse and they're like, "What is that?"
It's what the fuck are you doing? Oh, he's gonna lead us there. And he's cursing them out in Russian too.
Yeah.
They go down tunnels to a massive underground system of gears and mechanisms. The FBI director argues with Hellboy about who's in charge as a giant pendulum kills the agent and Ivan. Oh, that's the skeleton. He's like, "This is Ivan." They find Killer Carl, throw him down a spike pit, and bond over cigars.
Yeah, because I guess he saves him and he's like, "Thank you," and he gives him a cigar and he's like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I like that when Ivan the skeleton is falling down the end of this chasm, he's like, "I was better off dead."
He's like, "I got brought back for this."
Because who knows if he's gonna just die again down there,
or just be stuck reanimated forever,
just sitting there waiting for someone to pick him up
or kill him.
Because he's just a waste up, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my god.
The fight with Carl was a little anticlimactic. There's not much there. He basically just picks him up and throws him down that pit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But there's something else to be said here. It's the kind of gothicness about the aesthetic of this kind of hideout. It's a little steampunk because there's a lot of random gears that I'm not sure what they do. Like, it's like they're in a clock, basically.
Yeah.
Like a giant clock, right?
Which visually looks great.
Sure, but like what is this? Like, what are these gears doing? You know what I mean?
Maybe they're circulating air so they can breathe underground.
I mean, I think it's supposed to be like this giant doomsday device. But like, they don't, spoilers for like 5 minutes from now when we read it, but like, it's just a door that Hellboy has to open to like the spiritual realm or whatever. It's not like all those gears are going to start turning or something.
It's like a portal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, visually though, it is very kind of horror tropey and a little gothic, that there's like spikes everywhere. You know,
yeah.
And, like, they walk
like
down
a spike pit. Like...
Yeah, there's this great looking spike pit, and they walk down that hall that's all spikes, right? And earlier that the team split up because they get caught into these traps, and then spikes come out of the walls, right?
Yeah,
it's a little bit of like kind of like a 1940s serial, right? With like
an Iron Maiden.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the like visually. That kind of reminded me of that when they're walking through like the little spike corridor,
which is also like very gothic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Gothic, like medieval torture device.
Yeah.
Would it just be gothic horror then?
I guess, yeah. He got the cigar from the guy, you said?
I think so.
I thought you just pulled that cigar out. He got the match from him.
Oh.
Because he was trying to light it with a lighter, and he's like, what are you doing? Like,
you saw it more recently than I did.
I mean, yeah. Did you see it like 2 days ago?
Yeah.
And he's like, don't do that. You should light it with a match. Ruins the flavor.
Ruins the flavor. Yeah, you don't want it to taste like gas.
Sure. Yeah. They find the Samael nest. Hellboy starts fighting them, but is outnumbered. Myers has to hit Liz so she can start her fires. She burns all the Samaels and their eggs. This was super telegraphed earlier when he said, I'm fireproofed and you're not.
Yeah.
And this movie's 2 hours, by the way. It's long enough, but it feels like a lot of these scenes, they just kind of like breeze through real fast, you know?
Like they were still strapped for time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the fight with Carl was just like nothing.
Like, let's get rid of him.
Yeah. Punch, throw in the spike pit, move on.
About the same length as like the fights with like Ghost Rider and his little demons that were attacking him.
Okay, so your insert. You know what? I was hoping to beat you to it with the Ghost Rider reference because I had some of this movie feels a little Ghost Rider-y.
Well, I was
in certain
also,
ways.
I had one loaded for later. I was going to talk about how this movie tackles like paranormal and occult stuff a lot better than Ghost Rider did as well.
No, absolutely. But there is some kind of like, yeah, like oh, I have to fight like these paranormal creatures.
Yep, they're going to pop out at me one at a time, and I'm going to make quick work of them.
That too, because again, this part happens really fast, and then the part with or the Carl fight happens really fast, and then this part happens really fast because he's quickly outnumbered, and then Liz is like, "All right, I know what to do. I'm just gonna light this whole fucking place on fire.
So slap me and run away.
So because Hellboy's gonna be fine." And that's just what happens, and it's really fast and it's really anticlimactic, I feel.
Yeah, even though the scene built toward it. The scene was like, all right.
Where was Abe? Did he not go?
I don't think
he's not in the third act at all.
No, I think he's still chilling with his Rubik's Cube.
I think he's back in base.
He got injured during the last thing.
Oh, that's right.
And he mentioned something about like, well, I'm stuck in here, so.
That's right. The team is captured as apparently planned, and Hellboy is put in a pillory. I had to look up what it's called because I could have sworn there was another word for this, but it's not.
No, a pillory. When you're like.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought that was called something else.
I knew because of RuneScape.
Okay, well, yeah, it's one of those like wooden shackly things where it gets your neck and your arms at the same time.
And you're just kind of stuck there.
Yeah,
I think there's one actually at Disney in the
Magic
Kingdom.
There's one in Magic Kingdom. Yeah, and you can pose in it, and that's where I know this from. It's from Disney. I don't know why that's there.
Because it's old America.
What's the logic for that? That seems weird.
It's a little weird because it's like it's not a torture device, but it's not a pleasant thing to be in.
No, it's just like a really old shackle.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
And you're very like vulnerable while you're in it.
It's a weird thing to put in Disney. I never thought about that. Like, why that's there?
Because it's old timey.
Like, this is where we put but why show again Disney? Why show this is where we put our prisoners?
True.
You know, it's like torture or not,
but. It's a good photo op for that little America section. It's like right next to the Hall of Presidents.
Yeah. Rasputin orders him to open a door to let in the Ogdru Jihad. Rasputin sends Liz's soul to the other side to incentivize him. There's an eclipse. There's always an eclipse. I swear. Always an eclipse. Hellboy says his true name, Anunrama. Okay. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He says it once.
And unleashes his true form. There's a vertigo effect here, by the way. I don't know if you noticed it. When he turns into like his true bestial form. His horns grow and his fiery crown appears. He opens the doorway and awakens the beasts. Myers breaks out of his shackles, throws Hellboy his rosary, which reminds him who he is. He breaks off his horns and kills Rasputin. The tentacle monster within Rasputin is unleashed. Hellboy fights him with a grenade belt, gets eaten, pulls the pins, and explodes the monster from the inside.
So tentacle monster, that's very Lovecraftian.
All these monsters are very Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
And I do
but
like
tentacle's
that.
like the one that's probably the most like on the nose about it.
Yeah, but even the monsters, so like the 7 gods monsters, the ones that they're talking about, they show at least 2 of them, and they're like their tentacles are coming out of the sky through the clouds.
Yeah.
A lot of those visuals are really good.
Yeah, especially for like 04?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that looks really, really nice. Very artistic. I mean, the thing about like Lovecraftian horror is that like it's visually like horrifying. Like it's actually scary.
And you usually don't actually see the full like monster. You see like part of it, and even that's enough for like, oh, I don't want to see the rest of that.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the fear, is kind of like the unknown. Like you see a piece, it's kind of like you don't see the whole thing. Which,
funny enough, I think most of that fear of the unknown stuff came from his racism.
That's horrible, but hilarious.
It's
just like xenophobia. Like,
I mean,
I don't know about
his stories are very like xenophobic though.
Yeah,
but like he kind of twisted into like, oh, it's like, you know, it's these creatures coming from like another dimension.
Exactly. Yeah. Crazy. I always think back to like, there's a novel. I don't know which one. I'm not a big Lovecraft fan, but there's a novel where the cover is like it's somewhere like in the Arctic, and you see just like a bit of a monster, I think.
I don't know if I've seen like the individual covers.
If I find it, I'll link it below. But it's, I don't know, it's just
because I have like the, you know, like the Barnes and Noble collections that they have. I have that for like the works of Lovecraft, where it's just everything in one book.
Yeah. One
nice leather bound book.
Nice. Some of this in the end here is just kind of, it's fast. It seems anticlimactic, the final fight.
And it's like there's cool stuff happening, but we don't get enough time with it.
It is weird how, like, again, this movie's 2 hours, and it feels like it's way shorter.
A lot does happen, to be fair.
Yeah.
A shit ton happens.
And maybe it's like, maybe it should have been another 10 minutes or so to just kind of like let some of this air out. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you should cut some of the other things a little bit shorter. But like, this is supposed to be like the fight. And he's just kind of like, you know, the tentacles kind of grab him. He gets swallowed. He pulls the pins. It explodes. It's over. It's like,
this is going to hurt.
It's like a minute long. Like, it's so short. There's so many quips. He makes just so many quips.
Yeah.
And I'm all here for it. Like, I like it. He's like a demon Spider-Man, basically. But, and just a kind of a little like, oh, it's magic, so it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, we see Rasputin. First of all, we don't really know why he can do the things he does. It's just kind of said, like, whatever, he's mystic. That's all you gotta know.
Yeah.
Like, he gives that, I mean, he at one point he shows a book, and he's like, I guess he learned all this from this book. But, like, he can appear out of nowhere, even though he was dead and had to be resurrected.
They gloss over it very quickly.
And then apparently he can send Liz's soul to the afterlife or the other dimension. Like, he literally sucks it out of her mouth, like in Harry Potter, you know?
Like a Dementor.
Interestingly, that movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, came out before this.
Same year?
By a year. No, I'm pretty sure it's 2003 is Prisoner of Azkaban, isn't it? Actually, it might be 2004. 2004. Yeah, so I mean,
then I feel like
wouldn't have had any effect on this. I'm just saying, like, I mean, obviously the book had been out for a while. It just, you know, sucking your soul out of your mouth just feels like a Harry Potter thing to me. Hellboy returns to Myers and Liz, who is apparently dead. Hellboy whispers Liz in her ear, and she awakens. Apparently, though, he spoke to someone else and said, "Hey, you on the other side, let her go. Because for her, I'll cross over, and then you'll be sorry." and that's why she's back to life. They kiss in a fiery blaze.
He just threatened
why not show it?
You know, monster or a spirit or whatever.
Yeah, why not show that part? You know what I'm saying? Because he literally just says Liz, but apparently he had a whole dimensional, he had a whole adventure, cross into another dimension, threaten a being, and rescued Liz's soul from there. And
that could have been a whole movie.
Exactly. And we're just supposed to take it on like face value that all that happened just because he said so. Like,
or he's just lying.
That would have been a more interesting third act than, I don't know, I feel like you could have consolidated some of these fights that weren't interesting anyway. You know, and then done this thing for at the end. Show him somehow going into this other dimension, maybe with his horn. I mean, maybe not with his horns. He broke them off or whatever, but just like threatening or saying something to, I don't know, doing something else, I guess.
Fighting a bunch of other monsters in this other world.
Yeah, that's kind of the movie. But then credits roll, but a mid-credits scene reveals that they left the FBI director behind.
And he hears a scary noise or something.
That's kind of funny. But it also seems like a way of writing themselves out of like a plot hole. Like, oh yeah, we never showed that guy again. So,
oh yeah, shit.
We got to do something.
He's still there.
He's just still there.
Did they just forget about him?
I guess. He kind of sucks anyway. Do they go back for him? Like, what happens?
Maybe we'll find out in the sequel.
Maybe. So that's the movie. Pretty good, I think, overall. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I like this movie. Like, overall, first off, I love the concept of it. Like, just everything going on in this movie, I love. Execution might not be perfect for all of it, but I am liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I really liked it when it started, and it just kind of kept on waning a little bit as the movie progressed, and the whole third act just felt like a first draft, like an outline. We're gonna get to this thing. When we get there, a fight happens. Okay, but then that fight wasn't very interesting. And then we're gonna get to this other thing. A fight happens. That's also not interesting. And then we're gonna unlock the door, and then demons are gonna show up. But then he's gonna just break his horns off because he gets to make a choice, I guess. And then another fight that's not very interesting, and then that's the movie. You know what I mean?
Which is weird because so much of this movie had so much of the characters having actual dialogue and interacting, and there was a lot of attention to detail on certain things. And then you get to the third act and it's almost like a speed run.
Yeah. It does set up a lot of great things that then don't conclude very well.
It's just oh fuck, we set up too much, so we gotta start checking them off.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that a lot of it could have been consolidated. Okay, so you want to kill off Carl in his own scene, but you got to speed through that because you got to kill all of the Samael monsters in their own scene. And then you got to get to the actual bit.
Yeah.
And so it kind of felt like, why did they get captured in that scene? If only to just feed into this, transitions into the scene that you didn't really figure out. You know what I mean? Why would it be their plan to be oh yeah, we want them to come and kill all the Samaels? Because then they're going to pass out and we can capture them? Is that what happened?
Is that what they were waiting for? It happened so quickly that when they were captured, I was like, what happened?
Exactly. I was quite confused because I'm trying to think.
It's there's a scene missing.
It just happened to be that all three of them went unconscious at the same time? Is that how that happened?
I guess, because
I saw this today, by the way.
Because Myers obviously couldn't handle the heat, and he was kind of stuck in that room with them.
He's also a weak human.
Yeah. Hellboy was getting the shit beat out of him.
But again, so he
guess
falls unconscious.
Liz passes
and then
out every
Liz
time she
passes
uses her
out.
powers like that?
Sure. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of a weak way to get them all into the same room at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Right? There's some of these weird plot things.
They also could have just had him open a door and walk into the next room.
Right? Yeah, actually, because he wants to find them too. Might as well just let him find them if that was all part of their plan.
And then when they walk into the room or whatever, then it's a trap and they do whatever they do. Or when you walk into a boss room in a Zelda game and the door locks behind you.
Well, that happens in this. There's that one part where the door seals them shut.
And they're
and they turn around and they try to open it just like Link.
Yeah.
I don't know. They could have just captured Liz because they were separated at one point. And then they reunited, and then they had them all pass out. Like, they could have just captured Liz on her own, and then that's enough incentive for Hellboy to like, be in there.
Yeah.
They didn't have to shackle him either, because they unshackle him anyway.
Yeah, they're like, here you go.
Like in the pillory.
Just accept who you are.
Yeah. I don't know. So I like it overall.
I like it overall, too.
It's just some of these things that, like, a lot of that didn't make sense.
It gets a little messy at the end.
It's very messy. It's not very clear in a lot of ways. Again, you can make a movie with ridiculous powers and ridiculous mythologies and all this stuff that, like, doesn't make real life sense. That's what this whole podcast is about, right? We're watching all these movies. They're all superhero movies. They're all set in, like, universes where people have superpowers or some sort of, like, you know, sci-fi element, right? So all that, you can go fucking wild with it, but it has to like be set in some sort of movie logic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at least within its own universe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you have to sort of at least explain the powers that, like, some of these characters have. You can't just kind of wave it off and say, well, he's magic. It's
they just
fine.
do it.
Yeah, that's just who he is. Sure. Like, compare Rasputin's powers to Abe's. It works with Abe because they tell you right off the bat, well, he's very special. He's this fish monster. We found him. He's very smart. Look how he's reading books. He has a perfect memory. And then, like, the next scene, he's, like, showing telepathic things. Like, he can pick up an object and see its past, and he can show it to you, like, telepathically. That works partially because it's in the first act of the movie. Like,
it expands upon what's already been either shown or told to us. His telepathy stuff.
Yeah. Whereas with Rasputin, it's just kind of like, yeah, man, whatever. He has the power to move the plot. That's his superpower. I do want to talk about some of the action, though. It's apparently very much inspired by Ray Harryhausen films. And he was a stop motion animator, film producer.
Okay.
From movies such as, like, his works include animation for Mighty Joe Young, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans. You've probably seen the sword fight with the skeletons.
Yeah.
In Jason and the Argonauts. It's, like, shown all the time now as, like, classic visual effects. Where
I've seen it before, yeah.
Yeah, because he's basically taking, like, stop motion and integrating it with real people, back in the 50s. So...
Or like the Medusa fight in Clash of the Titans and stuff like that.
Yeah. So his work has been influential for a lot of directors. And part of it is kind of like putting the whole thing in camera, which is something that he did. It's not relying on the edit or anything like that. And that's something we talk about all the time. That, like, that makes for better action. At the same time, the action in this was kind of slow. And so it's like, I see what you're going for, but at the same time, like, you do have to modernize it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I think the action in this specifically, like, doesn't age well. In some of this fights, like, in the subway, like, Hellboy's just very slow. And not, like, on purpose. It's just kind of like how the movie's made. It's just kind of like he makes a quip, he walks over to the monster, and then punches it.
Yep.
And then the monster kind of hits him, and then he goes flying.
And he goes, oh, crap.
And he's, like, not very good wire work. And it just feels like it almost feels like it's a rehearsal. Like, they're just kind of going through the blocking and, like, where I'm going to stand or whatever. It doesn't feel like he's actually fighting this thing. You know, and I even get that, like, later on when it's the very fast, not fast, but, like, very short fights where he's just kind of like, one punch, two punch, you're dead. You're dead.
It also kind of makes you feel like that Hellboy's just not very good at fighting.
Yeah, he's just kind of, like, outlast all his, you know what I mean? He's just, like, stronger, right?
Yeah. There's no, like, finesse or anything in what he's doing.
For the effects, look, it tries its best, right? And it is definitely dated. I think some of the puppeteering looks really good. Like, the real life stuff looks good.
Yeah.
Like, the Samael puppets in some places look really good and in other places look pretty bad.
They looked good when they were dimly lit.
That's the other thing. Is, like, yeah, a lot of this stuff is dimly lit for obvious reasons, but it fits within the movie too, because, like, it's Hellboy and he's doing things at night.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Hellboy jumps a rooftop. It transitions from CGI to real life. I was like, that's kind of ballsy to do in 2004, where they didn't cut it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's a clear CGI model where he jumps to another rooftop, but then it transitions to, like, there's Ron Pearlman in like makeup.
Who's
you know,
old man.
I mean, at the time, he might have been in his 40s.
40s, maybe 50s.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
He's relatively old.
This was almost 20 years ago.
That's true, too. I keep forgetting how old some of these movies we're watching are.
Yeah. You know, it tries its best. It does the best it can, at least on the CGI side of things. All the makeup is incredible, though.
Yeah.
And I think that's... we're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro and his movies, but that is like his one constant, is that like...
Incredible, like, makeup,
the makeup
and, like,
prosthetics, all incredible. You look at Hellboy, his close-ups look incredible. He's wearing prosthetics.
Yeah. But he looks real because
really
like he is real. Like that's all actually there.
I also really like the paint that they use on him. It doesn't look shiny and waxy. It looks like skin.
Yeah.
You see that a lot more in modern movies like Guardians of the Galaxy. Characters like Gamora or
Ronan.
No, the dad, the one you love.
The one I love.
Yondu. And like Yondu, like the paint that they use on them, because it's very matte looking, it looks like real life skin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they use several different shades to kind of make it look more realistic and less like paint. But if you compare that to like some of the paint work in like the Star Wars prequels, like it doesn't look very good in those movies at all.
No.
I was very excited to see Ahsoka Tano, Mandalorian, because the only other person in her race that they've shown in the movies in live action was Shakti, and her makeup looks not very good. Like it looks fake makeup. It looks very fake.
Yeah.
But for Rosario Dawson, like it's a very much more matte paint that they put on, and they make it look like it's real. Like
they've gotten a lot better at what they're doing with this. Yeah.
But for this, he doesn't look very reflective. He doesn't look like he's wearing paint. He looks like he has red skin. Like it's very well done.
Yeah.
And you don't really see the seams either.
No.
Like you don't see where the makeup is hitting his lips. You don't see where the prosthetics really lie in his face. It's incredible.
And his whole face moves when he talks. Like it looks natural.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ape Sapien also looks incredible.
Yeah, that was a really good... Is that makeup?
That's mostly makeup, yeah.
It's very good.
I don't know where the CGI is. I don't know if his gills move. That might have been like a robotic, like a puppet, like a puppet
puppeteering
thing.
Yeah.
And that might be why he's not in the movie that much.
He was probably a pain in the ass to get ready for set.
Yeah. We're not doing... for Keep or Cancel, we're doing Guillermo del Toro. But for next week, I want to touch up on Doug Jones.
Okay.
Who is an actor you've seen dozens of times and may not have realized it. Because he's most known for like being
playing
like a
creatures.
Puppet. Yeah, creatures and puppets.
Does he play the creature in The Shape of Water?
Yes. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He's also like several creatures in Pan's Labyrinth. Obviously, Guillermo del Toro movies, but like in other movies too.
Right.
Or in TV. He has a huge filmography of just doing stuff like this.
It's his specialty.
Yeah. In this, however, though, Ape Sapien is voiced by David Hyde Pierce.
Okay.
So not Doug Jones.
Doug Jones is just like literally him.
He's the guy in the costume.
Yeah.
So great effects, I think. Like I said, even the CGI... it doesn't age great, but it is indicative of its time, and it's used fairly well at the time.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those where they're like, all right, we're going to go all in, and we're going to make Jar Jar Binks. It's going to be a full CGI character, and it's the year 1999,
Yeah. Ugh. Didn't age well at all.
Also, I was reading some of Guillermo's, like, sound bites or whatever, and he loves using labyrinths as, like, a motif. Because it represents Hellboy's conflict, he said, of choosing the right path.
Okay.
I see what he's getting at, but at the same time, like, that didn't feel like a labyrinth that they were in at the end.
No.
Because it just felt like there was a hall, there was a room, there was another room, and then they wake up in a third room.
It just felt like,
Those are just a series of rooms.
It felt like Ganon's, like, castle at the end of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, exactly. He said he feels that, like, labyrinths represents, like, the film's themes of choices and taking different turns and choosing different destinies, and I would agree with all of that. But like he also says, like a labyrinth is a place to not be lost, but a place to find yourself. And I would agree with all of that, except for there's not really that element of like they're lost in a labyrinth in this movie. And then when Hellboy has to make his decision at the end of the movie,
it's super quick.
It's so fast, and it just doesn't feel like he made an active conscious decision. It just feels like he got knocked out of it. Like, he got thrown the rosary, it burns a cross in his palm, and he's like,
oh, Dad.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm Catholic. I've just now remembered. I'm not a demon, and I'm not going to bring the end of the world. And he just knocks himself out of it.
That's the opposite of what I want.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it's a decision. It doesn't feel like he's tempted at all. So, like, I'm not really getting any of that symbolism, right?
Right.
No, but overall, it's not a perfect movie. It might not even be a great movie. It's chock full of some cliches and tropes, but I do really like it. And I like the horror tropes. The spike pits. I like how this kind of plays almost like a serial. You know, it has like almost like maniacal villains in this big lair and this kind of fun adventure. I just kind of wish it had leaned into that a little bit more, or like, again, like leaned into some of the metaphor here of the labyrinth, or the decision making, or like, the demons versus religion, or I don't know, some of that, right?
Yeah. I feel all that. Overall, I thought it was like a fun film overall.
Yeah, I agree.
The humor's like, yeah, it's corny, but I didn't not like it. Like, normally I don't like corny humor in movies like that, but for some reason in this case, like, coming from
like
Hellboy,
you do.
Not like this though. It's like extra corny in this movie.
Yeah.
But coming from the character of Hellboy, I kind of buy it. I just feel like that's the sense of humor that the character has.
Yeah.
So like that didn't really bother me. The action was definitely the weak part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I was thinking while I was watching the movie and while we were talking about the movie even was I was thinking like this movie feels very dated, but not in a way that I don't like. Like it feels dated more in a like nostalgic way. If that makes sense. Like, oh, this is how a lot of like these type of movies used to be made.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of it. It's like it's trying to fit into this kind of industry standard for the time.
Yeah.
But maybe it should have just tried to do its own thing.
If it did its own, it probably would have been a better movie overall.
Yeah, it might have been constrained by maybe some like studio notes.
Yeah.
Like
you gotta
make it more like this, make it more like that, like
make it more like Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, exactly. Yeah. It's 2004, like it's right after Spider-Man.
Yeah. But like overall, like good movie. Not great, but good.
Yeah. I feel like this is what Ghost Rider should have been. Right? Like a certain Ghost Rider je ne sais quoi. Just to throw it back to Ghost Rider,
right.
Your favorite thing to do. It's this kind of like superhero who has to deal with like the occult and like demons and just like monsters, but it's far more interesting than Ghost Rider.
Yeah, because Ghost Rider just kind of like, I don't know, glossed over it, even though the whole movie was centered around it. They still somehow just didn't cover it. I don't know. It's weird to explain. I mean, we had a whole episode kind of talking about it, but I feel like my thoughts on it are expanding the more I try to call back to Ghost Rider.
It's almost like you have to talk about it every single fucking week.
Yeah, I mean, that was, our first episode.
So, okay, cool. Those are kind of our thoughts. Let's move on. We're going to do Keep or Cancel. We're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro, who is the writer-director for this movie, Hellboy. Mexican director, famous for his horror-esque films, right? Because he's not making horror movies, straight up.
Right, they have a lot of the elements of it, though.
Yeah.
Which he would have been perfect for a Ghost Rider movie.
There you go.
Honestly, he would have been.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people, point to Guillermo del Toro and they're like, he's perfect for this and he's perfect for that. I think there's a lot of things that he could be perfect for. But he's kind of the most overworked, underproduced director. Because I read something recently that he said that he's like, he counted how many scripts he's made in his life.
And it's way more than the amount of movies that he's...
Yes. Like, by far. And he's like, each one is like a year and a half of my life.
Right.
And not all of them get made. So I have put like X amount of years into, like, he did the math, into like projects that like don't get made. And that's just how it works. That's just like, that's Hollywood or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's also this guy talking who's like incredibly meticulous. And he is kind of almost as known for dropping projects as he is for finishing movies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, is he a perfectionist? Like, is this on him as a creative for like being too meticulous, too... He doesn't want to do something unless if it's absolutely perfect, like absolutely what he wants to do, you know?
Yeah.
But so, like, really quick, go through his filmography. Kronos, Mimic, and The Devil's Backbone. So those are like his
early stuff.
Early stuff, yeah, pre being famous, basically. I haven't seen any of those, and I'm pretty sure at least Kronos, at least 2 of them are in Spanish.
Okay.
Blade 2. So
we will eventually get to that.
We will get to that, exactly. That's kind of his first foray in Hollywood filmmaking, I think. Well, like bigger budget.
Yeah.
Because I mean he like Mimic is, I'm gonna get to it, but
like borderline indie film.
Well, no, Mimic was put on by Weinstein.
Oh, okay.
So Blade 2, not the first one or the third one, just 2, and that led to this Hellboy. That probably got him this project. After this, Pan's Labyrinth, which for a long time was kind of like his big movie.
That's what he was like known
That
for.
was his award-winning movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
think he's still pretty much known for that movie.
For sure. He's done some more recent things that have gotten him a lot more notoriety, I think. But Pan's Labyrinth is incredible. That movie it's one of my favorite movies. And I want to watch it this spooky season. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
When I was young and I didn't understand what was going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so first of all, it's in Spanish, the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's set in Francoist Spain. So during the Spanish Civil War. So it's when Spain was, brief history of Spain. Spain was like they had a civil war, and then the fascists took over, basically. And they were fascist for a while before their fascist leader died, passed on power to his right-hand man, which happened to be like a member of the royal family. So he was like the previous king's grandson.
Okay.
And he was like, you can be the next king because you're fascist like me. And he died, and King Juan Carlos was like,
I ain't doing that shit.
Actually, long con. And in one day just flips the whole thing and makes Spain like democratic. In literally a day, like that.
There was no resistance?
No, he was playing the long con.
Okay.
And he had all the power to do it because, again, at this point, it was absolute power. So with his new absolute power as king,
he gave up most of his power.
He gave up his power and set up a democratic monarchy, very similar to like the UK.
Okay.
Anyway, so Pan's Labyrinth, it's about a girl who her mom is like dating or is recently married, I think, a general, like one of the fascist generals for Franco. It's weird because she's on the wrong side of history, basically.
Right.
Meanwhile, she has like these visions and she's basically thinks that she's living in a fairy tale. They move into like this new mansion or whatever, and she walks out into the woods and she meets a faun. And
this is the one that we like famously always see associated with this movie?
Yeah. So it's the mythological creature. I think a faun is goat body, human head.
Or like human, like torso up and like
because
legs.
It's Pan.
Yeah.
So like the mythical creature Pan.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Mr. Tumnus, basically.
Yeah, he's a faun. Exactly. And the faun is telling her that she's actually like this fairy princess and she needs to like come rule her thing. And is he lying? Like, is he evil? It's a dark fairy tale. It's really good. And it has incredible special effects. It's a lot of this kind of like what we see with Abe and Hellboy. It's very practical costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting
like these creatures
creature designs. It has the creature with the eyes and the hands. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another like very
fucking
famous creature from this movie.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's such a good movie. I'm excited to rewatch it. But so Pan's Labyrinth, I think it won Academy Awards. I don't know if he got like an award like Best Director or anything like that. But
it might have won one for like the makeup or
for sure. Yeah. Then the sequel to Hellboy 2: Golden Army, I think that was also nominated for something.
That might have been makeup as well.
Yeah, but again, in a busy year, 2008. So
this was competing with Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, The Dark Knight.
Yeah, it was kind of overshadowed by those in terms of like genre movies.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to rewatch that. Pacific Rim.
I love that movie.
So I think it's pretty fun. I can't tell if it's good, and I haven't seen it more than just the one time.
It's a very fun movie, though.
But it is fun.
Yeah.
But But he really went like balls to the wall with that. And it feels so different than anything else. Again, you go down this list and you're like, oh, this is all kind of like horror-esque, like horror adjacent, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like not necessarily scary, but it is kind of creepy. You know, it's not in the horror genre all the time. Like, it's not like the fear of the unknown or like a slasher or something like that. But it is kind of, there's monsters and it's unsettling. And it can be a genre, you know, a horror elements in other genres, like a superhero movie or like a fairy tale, right?
Yeah. And Ron Pearlman's in it.
Yes. But Pacific Rim is just like monsters I guess it's monsters, but it's giant kaiju versus giant robots.
Yeah, it's
like
definitely a departure from what he did prior to this.
Sure. I do need to rewatch that, and I don't think it's on our list because it's not.
I don't think it's based on a comic book.
I think it is based on a comic book.
Is it?
But it
might be based on like a novel or something.
I don't think I decided if it's ongoing or not because they made a sequel and they could very well make another one.
They also might be making like a show.
I think that's what it is.
Oh, there's an animated series coming out.
Yeah, I think that's why we said it's
on Netflix.
It's ongoing.
Yeah. And there's a Pacific Rim 3 in the works.
Okay, yeah, so it's ongoing. It is based on something though, isn't it?
Oh wait, he has no plans for Pacific Rim 3 actually.
Oh, well, shit. Well, he didn't do Uprising, so it didn't.
That's true too. Yeah. And apparently Uprising wasn't very good. I haven't seen it.
Wait, is this based on a comic? I thought it was.
It might not be.
I don't see anything.
I think it's just an original movie.
No way. Those don't exist.
But it's definitely like a Godzilla meets Gundam type world that this is in.
It was reported that Del Toro would direct an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's At Mountains of Madness.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That would have been really cool.
So, again, another thing. Tom Cruise was set to be in it. So, another thing that didn't happen.
There's also like a video game project he was involved in that ended up not happening. It was like a psychological horror video game series that was coming out. Yeah. He was the writer. It just... Nothing came of it. Yeah.
But again, he probably spent a year working on it.
He probably did.
Also, he was supposed to do the Hobbit movies.
And then he was like, nah, I'm not doing it. He dropped out, right?
I mean, like, they were written and they were going to start filming and then he dropped out. Like,
and then Peter Jackson had to jump in last minute.
Yeah, it was super last minute. So again, just as famous for the projects that he didn't do as much as the ones he has done.
And like that behind the scenes stuff for the Hobbit movies, Peter Jackson looks exhausted. Because like he did not plan to make these movies.
Right. And I think the decision to make them into 3 movies was a studio thing.
No, I guarantee he didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Because I think when Guillermo was doing it, it was just going to be 2 movies or even maybe one.
Maybe just one long one.
I think it was going to be either one long one or 2
not a long
movies.
book.
No, it's a very short book.
It's a fairy tale, basically.
Yeah. I read it very quickly.
Yeah.
Crimson Peak. You seen this movie?
I have not, but I've been told about it by Summer. I've been told about it by Sable.
It's a favorite of theirs. It's a gothic romance. So again, totally different for him, but also with completely injected with his favorite elements, right? Because it's set in like this mansion that's haunted and the ghosts are like, it's such an interesting look for ghosts. It's like what we talked about Aliens. It's like, how do you do Aliens now without being derivative of some other thing that did Aliens?
Right.
Look at the ghosts in Crimson Peak. It's a completely fresh take on ghosts. They don't look like any other ghosts you've ever seen in any other thing. Huh. And somehow Guillermo can do that. Like, him and his people come up with, like, crazy creature designs that are completely original. You know, and they might harken to other things, like we said, like, you know, some of these creatures in this movie harken back to or reference Alien. They have, like, they inject a fucking egg in your body or whatever. Even though they don't have to because they also had eggs outside. What's that all about?
It just needed to find. I think they mentioned it just needed a dark, moist environment.
Oh, okay. So
the inside of somebody's body is perfect for that.
Okay,
dark and moist.
Yeah, it's pretty warm too.
Yeah,
but yeah, the ghost design in Crimson Peak are so good that they almost look CGI. And when I saw the movie for the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's CGI." And then I realized in the special features, it's not. It's completely practical. They had trapdoors in the floors and everything for the ghost to come out of.
Shit.
Like, it's real makeup, it's real effects, and it's really, really good.
So a lot of work put into that.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that movie though because I'm not sure I love the movie so much as I love like the effects and the concepts and
all of the impressive like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. But stars Tom Hiddleston.
Okay.
And I forget who else. And then The Shape of Water.
We all saw that one together.
I was going to ask, were you with me when we saw that?
Yeah.
Amazing, I think. I think it's an amazing film.
It was really good.
I think that's his best movie since Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and like, honestly, like, I've seen that, I think, 3 times, and I think it's incredible. It's right up his alley. Like, obviously, it's a fish monster that looks not that dissimilar from Ape Sapien.
Yeah.
It's almost a recycled kind of design. It's a little bit more fishier.
A little more gross looking.
Yeah. That one got nominated for a ton of awards, and it got him the Best Director Academy Award for Shape of Water.
That was a very good movie, though.
It's
very emotional.
It's incredible. And people that are like, oh, but like it's about a lady who loves a fish monster, like that's weird. Yeah, of course it's weird. But like, you know, like check your reservations at the door, go in open with an open mind, and you're going to discover it's an incredible movie.
It's a really good like love story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upcoming, he's got a movie called Nightmare Alley that the trailer just came out for like a week ago.
Oh.
Trailer looked really good. It was mysterious, at least. So I'm excited for that. And apparently also a Pinocchio movie for Netflix. So not Disney.
So he's gonna look creepy as fuck.
So if you right, if you know about Guillermo del Toro and you know about his like fairy tale obsession, you know it's not gonna be a fun Pinocchio movie.
No,
but it might be good.
It's gonna be more in line with like the grim fairy tale stuff.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's
like the original fairy tales.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited for that. Friends with James Cameron was just something I learned today. Like, I knew he was friends with, like, Alfonso Cuarón, who's a fellow, like, Mexican filmmaker. And between Alfonso Cuarón, Guillermo del Toro, and Alejandro Iñárritu, those 3 guys kind of represent, like, this Mexican wave of filmmakers who just kind of, like, busted in and just are making some of the best movies today. Between the 3 of them, they hold, like, 5 or 6 out of the last like 10 Best Director Academy Awards.
Damn.
So they're really making a name for Mexico, first of all. But I didn't know he was friends with James Cameron. Cameron apparently tried to fight with Harvey Weinstein at an Academy Awards over a debate they had over or an argument they had over the low budget that they gave Guillermo del Toro to do Mimic.
Oh, damn. So Cameron like had his back.
Yes. Speaking of Cameron having his back, Guillermo del Toro's dad was kidnapped for a ransom in Mexico. So Mexico crime and the cartels it's pretty bad, right? And kidnappings happen all the time in Mexico. If you're an American going to Mexico, you're actually pretty safe because they don't want to deal with the FBI. And tourists are super safe. They have no reason to kidnap you. But they kidnap like important people all the fucking time in Mexico, politicians left and right. And so his dad was kidnapped because his whole family lives in Mexico. And they asked for like this huge ransom. And apparently James Cameron just gave him $1 million, like out of his own money to like pay the ransom.
Wow.
The captors were never caught, but his dad was released and they never got the money back. But there you have it.
Damn.
So that's pretty cool because I don't really like James Cameron very much. But
that's like, a cool thing
you
for him
read
to do.
Things like this where I'm like, God, like he was going to fight Harvey Weinstein at the Academy Awards for like this argument they had over like the budget for Mimic. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And he was very open about it, like in an interview, which is where all this information came from.
Well, James Cameron takes care of his friends, I guess.
I mean, he's known for being kind of like a really mean guy, but I guess if you're his buddy, you're good. Other things about him, he's an avid fan of comics, video games, books. Apparently, he has a whole house dedicated to his books, just his book collection.
Oh. At
At least one house. I've read that he may have 2 homes for just his book collection. He said that like as a kid, like his dream was just to have a room full of books and it's raining all the time for him to read them all in. So he's like, if I'm in my 40s and I have money, I'm going to make that happen.
Wow. This guy sounds like a gem.
Yeah. He's such a genre guy. Like he's so much about like comics, horror novels, Pulp Fiction, video games. He said like video games are like the modern comics. Like so much art and great storytelling is going in video games now.
He's right.
Huge fan of also Jack the Ripper and Frankenstein, like Frankenstein's monster.
Like just in general, like
yeah, he basically admitted that he like has a problem. Like he fetishizes like these characters. Like he puts them in his movies too much, and you see it. Like all of these movies have like a monster that you can empathize with that is kind of like separate from society, and that's where
which is very much Frankenstein's monster.
Exactly, and that's Hellboy. That's fucking Shape of Water. That's a lot of these. You know, even Pan's Labyrinth. Like the girl doesn't fit in because she is inserted in like these fascist politics that she just can't deal with.
And it's like in the case of like Frankenstein's monster, it's like the monster's not a bad guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But he's kind of being like forced into like certain things because of the way society is outcasting him.
Exactly. Also, he loves to insert religion and evil fascist politics into his films. Even though, because he was raised Catholic, he claims to be atheist now, but like he just can't help it. You know, it's just part of his upbringing. And you can see that in almost all his movies have at least some like level of Catholicism to them. Yeah. Or like the bad guys are usually like
Nazis.
They're Nazis. Or it's an authoritarian kind of far right bad guy like in Shape of Water.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch Pan's Labyrinth. Anyway, so Guillermo del Toro, keep, obviously.
Keep. He seems like a wonderful human being.
Yeah. He does a lot of cons too. Like I want to like go to a con and meet him like that, or at least like listen to him talk, you know?
Yeah.
I love his interviews. I love he's got a wonderful Mexican accent. Like he's just so cool. Did you say keep?
Yeah. Oh okay, yeah. He's great.
He just seems like I'd just be so good friends with him. Okay, so Phantom Zone, final thoughts. Hellboy. Almost forgot the movie we're watching.
Wow. I'm going to say definitely no to the Phantom Zone. This was a really fun movie to experience. Has a lot of great ideas going on in it. Not always executed perfectly, but it's worth watching at least once just to experience it.
Yeah.
Visually, though, this movie is also worth watching at least once to just see all the impressive stuff that they do in this movie with what they have. The story overall is fun to follow too. So
I think it's an overall good movie. I'm not gonna put it in the Phantom Zone. I think it's definitely rewatchable.
Right.
I don't think it's amazing by any stretch. I think it's got a ton of creativity, and I think that's what's worth it here.
Yeah.
Is that this is a very big swing. It's super creative. I love all the concepts in this. Whether or not like it works as a movie is a different question. Like a lot of the plot things towards the third act, like we said, just kind of start to fall apart. There's a lot of things that aren't clear. I had a lot of questions that I was like, I hope I can figure this out by the end of the movie. You know what I mean? And there's just a lot of scenes that were just kind of duds. But like I wanted it to kind of like wrap up a little stronger. At the very least, it set up a sequel. So like I'm excited to rewatch that one because I remember hearing that that's the better of the two. And I've seen that movie, I just don't remember it.
I think I started watching it like around the time it came out. Watched like the first half hour and I fell asleep because I started watching like really late at night. And then I just never tried to watch it again. So it'll be a new experience for me next week when we talk about that.
Yeah. So it's good enough. I'm going to say that. But like what you said, what's good about it is honestly great. Yeah. It's the concepts. It's some of the story setups. Some of the story executions, not so much. Characters are all really great. The effects are good. The makeup, specifically. Makeup, prosthetics, incredible. So I think that's it. I think that's everything. Let's see, by the way, because next week, Berto, we're doing the sequel.
Yes.
What's the sequel called?
Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. And that came out in 2008. It's on Peacock.
No way. No, it's not. Yes, it is.
It's for free.
Peacock. Wait, is the first one not on Peacock? That's weird.
Yeah, the first one's not on Peacock. That's weird.
I wonder if this one will be on Peacock starting October 1st.
We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Thanks to that piano dude for a musical intro. Make sure you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast or anything else you can. If you can see something you can leave us a rating on, hey, that'd be so nice if you did. Please make sure you tell a friend. And if you did tell a friend, thank you so much for telling a friend.
Yeah, word of mouth is nice. It's always appreciated.
I always love when we get someone on here that's like, oh, I'm friends with Berto, that's why I'm here. I'm like, okay, cool. So that counts as word of mouth. You did it.
Good.
Thank you for doing that. You can find us on Instagram at Films from the Phantom Zone, and you can find us on Twitter if you want to have an argument with me. I would love to do that at Films from PZ. All our episodes are available on YouTube as audio podcasts, but if you want to see our dumb faces drinking or taking breaks or having arguments, you can do that on Twitch. We live stream all our recordings on Twitch, mostly on Monday nights, with some exceptions. We might do a Sunday, we might do a Tuesday. All in all, mostly Monday nights, right?
Yeah, usually it'll be on a Monday.
And we'll post something on Instagram to let you guys know. But if you like the show and you want to be a part of it, that's how you do it. You come on Twitch, you hang out in the comments. We will 100% have a conversation with you guys, and we might learn something that makes it in the podcast. So that's definitely something you can do.
And you'll be credited.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Cool.
We also have the TikTok.
Yeah, I always forget. Yeah, we are also on TikTok, Films from PZ. And if you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. We are Films from PZ there. We'll probably, once we get a nice little community, have like events, maybe watch movies together. Maybe you get to vote on what movies we do. But I think that's pretty much it. You got anything?
No, that's it for me.
Cool. Guys, we'll see you next time with Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, and probably a Venom review when that movie comes out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, we really signed ourselves up for that. So there we go. Thanks again, you guys. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.